In Peter's second epistle, he talks about private interpretation. And there's two things going on with this. First, no scripture, nothing that we recognize as inspired by God. It comes about because of some man's personal private words. And second, the interpretation of those texts is not done by the individual. So we should think about what that means whenever we listen to someone teach or expound through Scripture, deliver a sermon, deliver a homily, whatever you want to call it. So Scripture is not just a blob of wax that we can shape however we want and string together verses however we want. What we believe about our Christian faith needs to come from that which has been historically taught by the church. That's how the Bible came together. For about 300 years, there was no New Testament canon. There were the epistles, there were the Gospels that were in circulation, as well as a big number of other texts that were written, other epistles, other teachings claiming to be apostolic. But eventually the church got together, the leadership, and had to ask themselves the question, what does the church believe and teach? So it was not, they could not appeal to a Bible to know what was Christian teaching. They had to appeal to tradition, which means that the question they had to ask was, does this text line up with what the church has always believed and taught? So eventually, after decades of struggling through, of assessing every text, some were identified as being faithful to the Christian faith, and other texts were rejected as being heretical or somewhat, to some degree, out of line with what the church had always believed and taught. So when we hear a sermon being preached, just because a man can come up with some way of spinning the text does not mean that he's correct. We need to think about, we need to critique what anybody teaches anything concerning the Christian faith, which means we need to know what the church has always believed and practiced. So we need to be informed, we need to have understanding, we need to have wisdom, and we should not be looking to ourselves for guidance. Our understanding needs to come from those who are wiser than us, from those throughout the last 2,000 years of church history who have all been in line and in agreement with what the church has always believed.